podcast, Preventing Operator Assaults, is a helpful look at the problem of conflict in and on our community transit systems. We hope that by starting a discussion that includes practical tips and ideas, that we can keep transit operators safe in every community, whether they serve in an urban, rural, or tribal transit environment. This project is funded by a grant from the Federal Transit Administration to improve safety for professional bus drivers and public transit riders throughout the nation. Your host is best-selling author and Transit Unplugged podcast host, Paul Comfort.
This is Preventing Transit Driver Assaults, a transit podcast designed to address exactly that topic. And we'll be talking to many transit leaders around the industry, looking at practical tips on how we can prevent transit driver assaults. We're excited to have with us today two very experienced guests who are going to talk on the topic. And Kristen Joyner, my co-host, will you introduce them for us, please?
Yes, sir, Paul. Thanks. Noah Berger is the administrator and CEO of the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority, which is the local transit provider serving 16 cities and towns across the Merrimack Valley, including Andover. Noah is an almost 30-year veteran of the public transportation industry. We also have Niorka Mendez. She serves as the communications director for Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority. She began her career as a bus operator in 2014 and was promoted to marketing director in 2017 before being elevated to communications director in 2021.
Thank you, Kristen. And I'm Paul Comfort, your host. I am the host of the Transit Unplugged podcast, author of the best-selling book, The Future of Public Transportation, and also a 30-year veteran of the transit industry, having served as CEO and in various other positions of transit agencies in the Mid-Atlantic area primarily. Noah's a good friend of mine and has done a tremendous job at his transit agency and working in the industry for many years. And we thought of you when we talked about driver assaults and preventing them. And you're kind of a mid-sized agency, not a downtown big city like New York MTA. Thought it'd be a great one to start off with. Noah, tell us a little bit about your agency and what's been happening with disruptive behavior there.
Yeah, no, thanks, Paul. It's for our agency, we carry about 2 million riders per year. We serve what we in Massachusetts call the three gateway cities of Lawrence, Haverhill, and Methuen is sort of our center of gravity. It surprises people how diverse the area is. Our central city, Lawrence, is 83% Latino, and about 75% of our ridership is Spanish speaking. So I think that it sets us apart from some of the other transit authorities of our size, particularly in the Northeast. In terms of driver assault, that's something that has become a regular thing that transit authorities of all sizes have been concerned about. There was an incident in one of our sister agencies in Worcester, just a little bit west of us, recently. We take that very seriously, and we train our drivers de-escalation techniques, so you don't get to the point you get to an assault. And at this point now, we bake that into the behind the wheel training that we do, both to get drivers ready to launch their careers with us, as well as the refreshers. And that's been very successful. I think we've, knock on wood, we've not had any incidents have escalated to the driver getting physically hit or anything like that. I do have to say also, one thing that is telling is we went fare free in March, and that really took the final adversarial relationship between drivers and passengers away. And, complaints are down. I think the drivers have felt a relief not having to enforce fare policy. The other thing is the other big thing was the mask mandate, which has also gone away. So I think that has been a better environment for us, at least. And then, the final piece that I think is testament to our success in this area is we really heavily recruit from our community. So our drivers are a part of the community. They know the community, many of whom are bilingual. So, they can speak with whoever the passengers who might be having an issue. And I think that's, obviously they can't address everything. And that's why they're also trained to know when to reach out to your dispatch, to your supervisors. We have a close relationship with law enforcement in each of our towns. And so we know that, we tell our drivers, you are not law enforcement, and they understand that. And I think that helps as well.
That's great. Kristen, do you have any follow-up for Noah?
I just think it's really good, Noah, that you start with training, and you recruit from the community and that you have a close relationship with law enforcement. Was there something in particular that you did to put together this grouping of tools for your agency?
First of all, I give credit to our team here who really has the experience. Many of our managers, like Neo, started as bus drivers, so really understand what the bus drivers experience, what the conflicts are, and how to pass that down to the current drivers. What we can do to avoid putting yourself in harm's way. So, one of the things, when there is an incident, we train the driver to open the doors, to leave the vehicle so you don't have a confined situation. And all these things are really drilled into the drivers. So it's not just an academic exercise, but it's something that they know how to deal with hands-on and are comfortable with.
And Noah, do you also include in the training making everybody watch that old movie Speed about the bus?
It's my next career is to be a Hollywood advisor on transit, but yes, this there's a lot of what not to do in that.
I was just going to say that when you said open the doors, I was like, that's a key. I always think about Seinfeld where Kramer says he got behind the driver wheel and kicked out the guy out of the bus, but kept driving and taking all the stops. I was like, probably a signal of what not to do as a passenger.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, hey, Neo, speaking of being a driver, in addition to your current role as communications director there, prior to this, you were a driver. Tell us some about any experiences you had there as an operator with any disruptive behavior.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember I had this route. We call it the 0141. We never skip the zero before the number one.
Like 007, right?
Exactly. That's how cool we are. So I remember I was in Lowell, which is a very busy stop for us. And I was there just waiting for my passengers to board. It was about time for me to leave the station. And I had this person that, was telling me, oh, he just got out of the hospital and he needed a ride back. But, this was a usual person that I used to take with me all the times. But that time, he didn't have the fare. So I was like, you know what, my friend, I've had you many times before. I've given you many breaks. So unfortunately, I can be doing this all day, every day with you. Every time you wanna go back to Lawrence. So he kind of got mad at me and started yelling and calling me names in Spanish that I never even heard in my life. Which is funny because due to the fact that I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, not knowing these words, I was like, oh my God, what is
You've heard everything, right?
I know. But, what I did was like all of the Lowell drivers, we kind of knew each other because we saw each other on a daily basis. So they were like, you know what? Don't worry. We'll take care of him. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much. But, you do not engage with them. My advice to operators is it's not personal. They don't know you. You don't know them. You're the professional driver. So you really have to act like you are that person. Don't engage because, and I was telling Noah this, like for me, I live in Lawrence, which is one of the communities we serve. And I go out in my community and I go out with my kids and I don't know what intentions these people might have. And, I go on the street. I can't be going on the street thinking that this person is going to do something to me because, a certain event happened while I was working.
Right.
So
the after hours problem. Yeah.
Correct. And, and sometimes I smile when they come on the bus, not that it works every time, but just saying, and we're not here to make friends. I understand. But if you're pleasant to them, sometimes that changes the whole situation. When you say good morning, good afternoon, or, how are you, or just a smile. Some people just want that. Some people just need that in their lives. Or sometimes it's just someone to talk and, to tell them about their day and how bad they've had a day, how rough it's been for them. And sometimes that just changes everything.
Thank you. Now, go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, Neo, I wanted to ask, as communications director, because of your experience being a driver and now wanting to make the whole community safe, what are you messaging to the community about this in order for them to help keep drivers safe?
Yes. So because I'm bicultural, bilingual, I do access to certain community groups that were not tapped before. And I get to speak to the riders, to the passengers in the language, which is Spanish. Like Noah said, 75% of our riders speak Spanish. So I get to communicate with them in a way that they understand and I understand them. And talking about that, and something that Noah forgot to mention is that we have a 911 button on the bus that it's pressed in case of an emergency, and that displays on the destination sign in the front of the bus. And our community is so engaged and takes care of us so much that when they see that sign go off, they will call the office and say, hey, I saw a bus that has a 911 emergency request sign on.
That's awesome that your community is that involved. Sometimes we have that bystander syndrome where, you see something, but you don't really know that anybody's going to react because they think somebody else is going to help. But if you've already been out there talking to them about how they can help keep your drivers safe and how you can keep the other riders safe by them just seeing something and saying something. That's a great plan.
Yes. And on the bus, our regulars, they take care of us too. Like I had my regulars that I talk to every morning, and we would even take turns like getting coffee. Maybe we'll be like, oh, it's your turn today. I'll get coffee for you. And they were like always protective of me. When they saw that something was going to get out of hand, they would be like, no. You don't mess with her. Please leave her alone. Be respectful, which is great to have.
That is. Noah, you were going to say?
No, I say, and I think that captures a lot of what, the picture that Neo paints is something that, you may not find, and I'm originally from New York City, so no disrespect to the big cities, but you may not find that sort of interconnection between the elements that we have here. It's a very urban environment, but people do take care of each other. I think, and it goes beyond just our service area. I think the route that Neo talked about, we go into the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, and there, the drivers know each other, management knows the drivers, and we know the community. And likewise, law enforcement. Another thing that we're involved with is in Massachusetts, there's funding from the Department of Homeland Security that are divided up into different sections. So we actually are part of NARAC, which is Northeast Homeland Security Regional Advisory Council, that meet regularly with, so we're meeting with the chiefs of police and the fire chiefs. So it's not, when we're engaging with law enforcement, it's not the first time. And not just because we have our picture up in the post office wall, but it's, that's, those things are there. And the other thing about when we have the call 911 display, the drivers also trained, don't pull up too close to the car in front of you if you have that on your display, because that may reflect off of their back window. And the perpetrator would see it. So, we have all of this is trained in as part of that just muscle memory.
Yeah. Well, Noah Berger and Neo Mendez, thank you so much for sharing with us your experience and how we can help prevent transit driver assaults.
Thanks for having us.
All comments, tips, and ideas are the express opinion of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Transit Unplugged, the Federal Transit Administration, CTAA, SWTA, TTI, or their subsidiaries. Thanks for listening.